Hello once again, fellow moviegoers. Jeffrey Michael here, and welcome to a special high-stakes Texas Hold'em edition of Jeffrey Michael's movie reviews Extravaganza. I bet $1,000 this is the best movie review video ever. But seriously, in this video, I will be reviewing the movies that were released on December the 25th, or Christmas Day, of 2017. So the first movie that I will review is All the Money in the World, rated R. It stars Michelle Williams, Mark Wahlberg, and Kevin Spacey. Oh wait, sorry, cross that out. Christopher Plummer. More on that in a minute. And was directed by the great Ridley Scott, one of the best directors of our time. He brought us such classics as Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, and most recently The Martian with Matt Damon. Now, All the Money in the World is inspired by a true story about events that occurred in 1973. The movie starts off, a young man is kidnapped by a bunch of kidnappers in Italy. And why that's significant is because his name is John Paul Getty III. He is the grandson of J. Paul Getty, the richest man in the history of the world, played by Christopher Plummer. And news of his kidnapping gets out, and everybody, his mother Gail, played by Michelle Williams, and she is not a Getty. She actually married into the family, but she divorced their father, and she didn't get any money in the court proceedings. She just got full custody of her children. So she and a bunch of reporters raced to J. Paul Getty's mansion. They all asked him, hey, what are you willing to pay? These kidnappers are demanding $17 million. What are you willing to pay to get your grandson back? And he responds, nothing. And yeah, it pretty much shows you just what kind of man J. Paul Getty is. He explains, if I pay this ransom, then they'll kidnap all my grandchildren. I'll pay even more ransoms. Then I won't be even rich anymore. And they're aghast and wondering, why doesn't Gail pay this ransom? She's rich. And she says, no, she's not. She just married into the family. She doesn't have any money. And so Getty decides, I'll help anyway. So he gets one of his men, a former CIA operative, Fletcher Chase, played by Mark Wahlberg, to help Gail aid in the investigation and track down these kidnappers so they don't have to pay the ransom. But then it gets cryptic when they get a package sent to them with the grandson's severed ear inside. And so now it really gets serious now. They're like, what are we going to do now? And let me start off by saying that I'll start off by addressing the elephant in the room, which is, of course, Spacey-gate. That's what I'm calling it. I mean, I hope it catches on. A couple months before the movie was supposed to be released, Kevin Spacey, in October, had many allegations made against him about, sexual allegations. And so he was supposed to be playing J. Paul Getty, but they couldn't release the film with, all this happening. And so Ridley Scott said, hey, in the last 6 weeks before the movie's release, we're going to bring back in all the principal actors and Christopher Plummer, who was Ridley Scott's first choice anyway, and reshoot all of J. Paul Getty's scenes with him in it. And so miraculously, they managed in those just few weeks to completely change the whole movie around. And so Christopher Plummer, basically, it's amazing how in the 11th hour, he shot all these scenes in just 9 days, and now he's actually getting nominations for awards for his performance. I mean, it's crazy story. And honestly, I think he deserves it, because after seeing the movie, he's pretty much the best part of it. I mean, his performance is dynamic, and he's very charismatic and magnetic. He draws you in, but he's also a monstrous person. And so you want to repulse him for it. And so, love-hate relationship, you realize, wow, he's really a great actor when you see this great performance. And it's pretty good that he actually is got the main part, because the rest of the movie, I mean, Michelle Williams and Mark Wahlberg do good, but I felt that the movie was a little conventional. Like, they could have been better than it was. I mean, it really helps that Christopher Plummer was cast in the role. I mean, if that didn't happen, the sex allegations, it's hard to believe what kind of movie it would have been. But it could have really fallen apart, but they really did a miraculous job of bringing it all together. Overall, I would give this movie a B. I mean, Christopher Plummer is really the reason to see this movie, so if you really want to go see it, I highly recommend it. This is one true story that really ended up going quite well, so I hope you all get a chance to see it, because it's really good. So the last movie in wide release on December the 25th was Molly's Game, rated R. It stars Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba, and is the directorial debut of Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin is actually a screenwriter. He wrote for The West Wing, and he was also the screenwriter for movies like The Social Network, Moneyball, and Steve Jobs, all Oscar-nominated films. So yeah, he's a go-to screenwriter in Hollywood. In fact, he's well known for his screenplays for like rat-a-tat back-and-forth dialogue and extended monologues. He's very dialogue-heavy in his scripts, and it's extremely evident in his first directorial debut, Molly's Game. So Molly's Game is based on the true story of Molly Bloom, played by Jessica Chastain. Molly Bloom was a professional skier, as we find out in the first 5 minutes of the movie, but her career came to an abrupt halt. And then in the next part of the movie, we see that she's, years later, arrested by the FBI, and she's taken to her lawyer, played by Idris Elba, and she then narrates like how she got to that point. So we go back to 10 years ago when, after her skiing career failed, she went to LA and got a couple meaningless jobs, and then she discovered the underground world of high-stakes poker and how much money is used by these people when they're playing. It's like, whoa, that's a lot. So she basically self-taught herself. She learned everything about poker, how it's played and all the terms involved and all the slang words and, what kind of music and food do poker players like. And she basically learned it all. And she basically went around and set up her own poker game every couple of nights. She would make the room look nice and have music and food and all the girls serving it. And she'd invite all these celebrities like actors and directors and businessmen. And there'd be like $10,000 at least a limit per play. Whoa. And in the process, she ended up getting tipped thousands of dollars and ending up getting all this money that she made all on her own. And the most remarkable thing about her is that she tried extremely hard to make sure everything that she was doing was perfectly legal. In fact, she went to her lawyers. Excuse me, is all this good? I'm good to go? Yep, you're all good. Perfectly legal. I mean, that's, a good hallmark of her personality is that she really tried really hard to make an honest living. And that's good about her. And as expected in the world of poker, things that eventually don't always go right. Like she had, clients who couldn't pay up or, they would lose everything. And then she would eventually move to New York from LA and start poker tournaments there. And she had some new clients, and these Russian guys. And she didn't know at the time that they were probably part of the worst Russian mob of all time. And the FBI had been tracking them for years. And when they do, seize these guys, they think she knew about these guys, and so they seize all her money, all her millions of dollars. And so she didn't even do anything wrong, and then the FBI indicted her, and that's exactly how the movie goes from there. Overall, this movie I thought was really well done. I mean, Jessica Chastain, she has to do quite a lot in this movie. She narrates almost every scene, and she has to give these dramatic performances, and she did a really great job. I mean, she, I think, deserves to get at least a nomination, come Oscars. Overall, I thought the movie, although it was a little long, though, it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. I mean, the pacing was not exactly fast, so could have cut a little bit of time there. Also, at times it got a little too dialogue heavy. I mean, there's this old adage with making movies, like, trying to show rather than tell. And so instead of like a scene like, oh, I was on so many drugs at the time, she says, we could actually show a scene where, there's no dialogue, where she actually see how addicted to drugs she was. I mean, that would have been nice. But those are just minor quibbles. I thought this was a really well-done film for Aaron Sorkin's, directorial debut as a screenwriter. Overall, I give this movie a nice B+. It's a nice movie to see in time for awards season, so I would recommend that if that's what you're into. So, it's a good poker movie and a good acting movie, and I'll bet $100 that you go ahead and see this right now. I bet $1 million you're here for the recap. All the Money in the World. B. Well done true life story, elevated by the dynamic performance of Christopher Plummer in a role that wasn't even supposed to be for him. For that reason alone, I recommend everybody see this movie. And finally, Molly's Game. B+. Another true life story about the high stakes poker world of Molly Bloom, elevated by Jessica Chastain's performance and the directorial debut of Aaron Sorkin. I bet my whole house you all go see this movie. No. And that'll do it for another high-stakes edition of Jeffrey Michaels Movie Reviews Extravaganza. Until next time, happy movie watching, everybody. No more bets. I got no more money.